Hey guys, this video is going to be a review of Women of the Smokies by Courtney Lix, which is a collection of stories about real women who lived in and around the area that is Great Smoky Mountain National Park today. The book is divided into 3 sections. The first section is just women who lived in the Smoky Mountains and survived. There's nothing specific they needed to do to get into that section. It's kind of like the catch-all of everyone who lived in the mountains, and for the most part the stories in that section are the earliest stories. The second section is about artists, writers, musicians, and such who were inspired by the Smoky Mountains, who lived in the area and were inspired by the Smoky Mountains in their art. And the women in that section tend to have lived later than the women in the first section. And the third section is all women who were alive when the national park was created and in some way interacted with the park, or were influential in getting the park created and things like that. I mentioned in my wrap-up that I read both this book and Wonder Women by Sam Maggs pretty much back to back, and this one did come out as being a bit duller to me than this one. I think there are a few reasons for that. There is more variety in stories in here. As you can tell, these books, I'm pretty sure that there are more women in this one, so I would definitely say that there's more written about each woman in this book, which might have been a good thing, except I think it added to the feeling that each one of these stories felt like reading the same thing over and over. Obviously, all of the women in this book lived in the same area and did a lot of similar things. There were a few Cherokee women featured in this book, all of them later on, and they all lived much later. I think most of them are either still alive or have only died very recently. There are no stories about Cherokee women in any earlier time period. I think it's a real shame not to have more Cherokee stories in here than there was. Other than the Cherokee women, every woman in here is white, which I also find it very hard to believe that there are no black women that could have been featured in this book. And more stories from women who weren't white and living in the area definitely would have helped with the feeling that I was just reading the same story over and over again. On their own, I would say each story was enjoyable. It was when they were all put together and read back to back that it got a bit boring. I think it would be even better if you read one story, put the book aside, read another story later or something like that. But I did enjoy the writing style, and on their own each story held up, I think. That is all, and I will see you guys later. Bye.